Chapter 344, Bone Sword and Broken Sword. This chapter is updated by novels.pl. Lei Jing and Chen Ying retreated and stood at a distance, giving Jiang Ruochen and Di Yi room to fight. Chen Ying's gaze was bright and his face was particularly serious. The result of the battle between Jiang Ruochen and Red Wish Emissary is enough to propel him to stardom in the eastern region and make him one of the most outstanding warriors in the young generation. You shouldn't have let him duel Di Yi. If anything goes wrong, the half-cents and saints in the school will definitely put the blame on us. Lei Jing placed his fists inside his sleeves and stood proudly. He's still young. We should let him experience some setbacks. Even if he loses to Di Yi, it's still a good exercise to improve himself. On the contrary, if I stop him now, it'd affect his martial arts heart. Jiang Ruochen's victory over Red Wish Emissary had indeed shocked the great influences in the Omen Ridge, but still, no one favored him in his battle with Di Yi. Di Yi was a saintly being, after all. It could be said that no warrior in the same generation was his rival. Furthermore, they were in the same realm. In the same realm, saintly beings had a crushing advantage over their peers. Jiang Ruochen, do you really not want to know where Jiang Tangai went? Di Yi asked. This battle must happen. I wouldn't be distracted no matter what you say. On the contrary, talking so much just shows the fear in your heart. I know I'll win for sure. Why would I be afraid? Di Yi laughed coldly. Since that's the case, let's start our battle. He extended his hand to the back of his neck, clasping over his backbone. With his fingers digging into his flesh, he tugged hard and slowly removed the bone. Each piece of bone was like a piece of beautiful white jade that emitted a brilliant holy light. He removed the entire spinal cord from his body and held it in his hand. It was more than 1.5 meters long and had a total of 19 pieces. Its shape was like a white bone sword, radiating a powerful aura. There seemed to be an illusory image of a loose head cent floating on the surface of the bone sword and enveloping the bone sword. From a distance, lines of inscription appeared on the surface of the bone sword. It gave off an icy air. Di Yi hadn't immersed his genuine qi into the white bone sword. The icing air from the white bone sword was cold enough to freeze the water particle in the air into ice. Snowflakes fell down from the sky. He ran his finger lightly across the sword. This sword is called Snow River. A master weapon forger stripped the backbone of a half-cent and tempered it in heart fire. It's only a sword, yet carries the half-cent and saint power of the Snow River. It can be considered a human sword. It wasn't a strange practice to use the bodies of strong warriors and savage beasts to refine weapon. Some people would use a warrior's meridian to make a whip while others would use the leg bone of a half-saint to forge a conquering stick. There were also those who used the head of a saint as an evil container. The stronger the warrior or savage beast was, the higher the price of the refined weapon. The bone sword in Di Yi's hand contained the power of a half-saint. With such power, it had reached the peak, 10th level of the genuine martial arms. It could even stand against an 11th level genuine martial arms. Genuine martial arms were typically only split into 9 levels. When it went above 9 level, they would be beyond the category of genuine martial arms. Instead, they were known as holy weapons. However, there were always masters of refined weapon who made high-level weapons much more powerful than a 9th-level genuine martial arms, yet were far from a holy weapon. Thus, those masters added 3 other levels, 10th, 11th, and 12th level. Di Yi's Black Dragon Ghost Claw could only be considered an inferior class 10th level genuine martial arms. Snow River, the white bone sword, could be considered a best 10th level genuine martial arms. It was much more powerful. When it came to his offensive force, it could be considered invincible. 3 months ago, I used the Snow River Bone Sword to defeat Bukion Fan. I ranked first on the Earth board just in 3 moves. And you insist on using a broken sword to fight me? Di Yi asked. Jiang Ruochen glanced at his Abyss Ancient Sword. It's enough to use a broken sword against you, Jiang Ruochen. I have a 10th level genuine martial arms sword. I can lend it to you, Chen Ying offered. Many thanks. Though the broken sword in my hand is only a 9th level genuine martial arms, It's what I'm most familiar with. It's the only one that will work well for me. As if it felt his determination, the sword began shaking violently. It gave off an eye-piercing light as if telling the world that it wasn't a useless sword. Swords also have spirituality. Swords also have their dignity. Pluto's blades. De waved his arm and ice-cold sword kiss shot into the sky in an instant, becoming a dark cloud of sword chi. Amid the clouds, the streaks of sword chi appeared to have converged into an illusion of Pluto. With two enormous ghastly eyes, it screeched and struck Zhang Yuochen from above. Hades' sword skill was an inferior class ghost-level sword technique. Ghost-level sword techniques were so much better than spiritual stage sword techniques, particularly those that had reached a succeed stage. They were capable of moving earth and heaven as well as waking the spirits. The power they contained far surpassed the category of sword techniques. Watching De execute a ghost-level sword technique, there were changes in the expressions of the crowd watching from a distance. No wonder De was able to defeat Bukion Fan in 3 moves. With the power of the Snow River Bone Sword combined with the Hades sword skill, how many among the younger generation was capable of standing against it? This is De's true strength. If we were to fight, he'd need one strike to completely destroy me, said Seek Sinkong. How many of De's strikes do you think Zhang Yuochen will be able to block? Ginya held her breath and watched from a distance, anticipation reflected in her beautiful eyes. Zhang Yuochen didn't need to defend against many strikes from De. Only 3 and he would become a household name. I'm afraid it'll be difficult for him to block even one strike, said Hu Shenyi, the heresy elder. Even the warriors standing over 333 meters away could feel the breath-crushing pressure coming from De. The pressure on Zhang Yuochen, who stood right under the sword cloud, would undoubtedly be even stronger. A star-like spot of light appeared in the middle of Zhang Yuochen's glabella. The heart of the sword was moving quickly in his chi. Break. Zhang Yuochen pointed with his finger, sending his sword flying out. It became a light column that shot into the sky, striking at the Pluto illusion formed from converged sword keys. Though the Hades sword skill was profound and powerful, it also had its weaknesses. Its weakness was its glabella. His strike was aimed right at Pluto's glabella. Boom! The Abyss Ancient Sword struck Pluto's glabella and went through it in the same way one broke a piece of bamboo. In an instant, it tore through the sword cloud and dissolved it into streaks of chaotic sword chi that scattered in all directions. They made swishing noise as they flew through the air. At the same time, Zhang Yuochen's fingers clenched into a sword skill and controlled his sword to slash De instantly. What? Is Zhang Yuochen defending the sword? Did my eyes fail me? There's no mistake. He's defending the sword. Doesn't that mean he has reached the realm of heart integrated into sword? In the legends, weren't half-saints the only ones who were able to reach that realm? That's not necessarily true. As long as the warrior has strong enough meditative powers and works hard, they'll the opportunity of reaching the realm without being a half-saint. Only, these warriors are very rare. Those who achieve it are warriors of the fish-dragon realm. To reach the realm isn't impossible, but the stories only exist in legends. In history, those were the famous and powerful saints. Earlier, when Zhang Yuochen was dueling Red Wish Emissary, I guessed that he had reached the realm of heart integrated into sword, but I just wasn't sure. No wonder he's able to stand up against a saintly being despite not being one. It turns out that his comprehension ability is strong and his understanding of the sword technique is deep. Heart integrated into sword was the realm that every warrior aspired to achieve. Not even Lei Jing and Chen Ying, with their impressive cultivations, reached the realm. Understandably, Zhang Yuochen using the sword defending technique caused quite a stir among the crowd. Pluto's chaos. De released the innate magic chi and once again struck with his sword, sending the Abyss Ancient Sword flying. Swoosh! He charged forward, lifting himself up as he went. He gripped the hilt of his white bone sword with both hands and slashed his opponent's head, crying, "This is the 3rd strike. It's time to stop this." Pluto's destruction. Having defeated Bukion Fan in only 3 moves, he planned to do the same in this battle against Zhang Yuochen. How could Zhang Yuochen block his attack without the Abyss Ancient Sword? Boom! Zhang Yuochen's body burst with a strong sword comprehension power. It swept across the water city, traveling hundreds of meters. Within those hundreds of meters, all the swords in the hands of the warrior's hands began shaking uncontrollably before flying toward him. "What's going on?" My sword flew away. Nearly 100 combat swords flew from all directions towards Zhang Yuochen. It was as if the swords were holding court as they flew above his head.